So if you're a guitar player, and if you're here, you probably are, you know that pedal boards don't really stay the same for long. And that has been no different with me. Since I started this channel back in October of 2024, I have changed my board a lot, to the point that it's not even the same board. So I just wanted to take a look at what my new board is looking like and what's on it, because it is very different from what it was before. So I'm using my Gretsch Electromatic Jet, Filtertrons, and then working backwards a little bit, I guess. I'm using the Worship Tutorials Fender Pro Reverb and hand-wired AC-15 captured from the ToneX. So let's just head over to the beginning of the chain. We start with the Keeley Compressor, which is an always-on pedal. The way I have it set up, it gives me enough dynamic range while also still giving me some of that compressed sound, which I really like, and it's very praise and worship tone style, but I really like it. So, you know, it's also kind of brightening up my tone a little bit. So here I'll do that. So. I'll turn it on. So yeah, it's a compressor, it compresses. It's not a huge difference, but I like what I'm doing with it. Set to the humbucker mode, obviously, the Keeley Comp Plus, because I'm using humbuckers. So coming out of the Compressor Plus, it goes down to the JHS Notaklon, which I don't think I could live without this pedal. The JHS Notaklon is on so much. I have it set relatively clean, so it's really good for lower gain stuff, for some ambient stuff, but then I can boost it with the TC Electronics Spark, because I set it out of order. The compressor actually goes into the Spark, which then goes into the Notaklon. So the Spark can boost and push the Notaklon to make some higher gain sounds, so I'll kind of show you those. So here's my Klon, just on its normal clean settings. We'll go to the middle pickup. So it's got some dirt in there. It is an overdrive, and I didn't want it too clean, but especially with some wet effects on it, it sounds really nice around there. And sometimes I even set it a little cleaner than that. I've been playing with it being a little dirtier, but that's where I like it for now. But then, you know, so we go from here, boost it with the TC Spark. So we get a little bit of a dirtier sound when that boost is pushing into the Notaklon. That's why I bought a boost. So I'm pretty happy with that, though we'll get into boost stuff a little more later too. So coming out of the Notaklon, we go into the Nobels ODR-Mini. I made a video on this a while back, and at this point in time I have a little bit of a complicated relationship with it, so this is the first version of the ODR-Mini, so they've made a second edition since then. And this one doesn't have the bass cut knob that the newer ones do, and it kind of really needs it. There's a lot of low end in this overdrive. It's weird, especially in contrast with the Klon. I do like it, and it used to be my main high gain drive, but then I have the DRV. So the Nobels has kind of just been sitting on my board, not really getting used much, but I'm playing around with it. So honestly, I'm not even sure what the settings are like on that right now. Let's find out. So honestly, not too much different than the Klon the way it's set right now. Drive pretty low, level up a little bit. Spectrum, I like this pedal a little bit brighter, so I keep the Spectrum towards the right side of noon. Let's go ahead and boost that too with the Spark. So that's where my strap is catching my leg. That's where the Nobels is at, but again, it's kind of just sitting there, not really getting used much, especially since I got the DRV. The way I'm kind of gain staged is like, I have my Klon, and if I need a little more dirt, I put the Spark into the Klon, and then if I need really big sounds, I'll use the DRV. which is where we go next. So out of the Nobels, we go to the 1981 Inventions DRV. I made a video about this just last week, actually, but I love this pedal. Man, I love that pedal. It is, and literally it's impossible to make this pedal sound bad. No matter where you turn the knobs or how you set it, you can't make the DRV sound bad. I love it so much. And if you want to see more about that, you can check out my last video on the DRV. And then coming out of that is something I actually just put on the board today. It's the Behringer Super Fuzz. So the Super Fuzz, if you don't know about the Behringer Super Fuzz, you should. This is a clone of the old Boss Hyper Fuzz, which can now pretty much only be had for several $100s on Reverb because they don't make it anymore. But the Super Fuzz is a Behringer pedal, meaning it costs like $25-30 depending on the one you get. And it's got 2 fuzz modes and a boost mode. Currently, it's just acting as another clean boost. I used to use this as a clean boost where the spark is, but then I took it off the board. I got the spark because it takes up a little less space before I got my new bigger board, which I guess I should talk about, but we'll get there, I guess. And then now I put it there after because I think I really like also having a boost after my drives because it just gives me some really big sounds that I think are cool. So here, I'll show you what that can be like. So let's go DRV. And then boost the Super Fuzz out of that. It's loud, it's dirty, so I'm still playing with the settings on that because I literally put it on there a couple hours ago and haven't played with it a whole lot other than just kind of have it sitting loosely on my board for a few days. But we're playing with that, seeing how I like it and seeing what I can use it for. I think it's really cool for some big lead tones that I want to sound really thick. So I really like that. And then, so out of the Super Fuzz, we go down to my Boss FV30H volume pedal. I really like this volume pedal just because it's not giant. Like, I feel like the Earnie Ball VP Juniors are really big along with some of the bigger Boss ones. So this is just a really good size because I also don't like the Dunlop Minis. So I really like this FV30H, and then I went to Harbor Freight and bought a roll of grip tape, and I put it on there because this is basically, like, there's a little bit of texture, but for the most part it's a flat metal surface. And so if I'm wearing most shoes, my foot just kind of slips down, but I put the grip tape on there, left that Boss logo exposed, and haven't had a problem with it. I've been using it this way for over a year now. And then out of the tuner out, we go up to that Polytune 2. That was also still there from the last version of the board. There's a few of these that were. But that's still there. It's a tuner. Does great. Tunes my guitars. We go down. Out of the volume pedal goes to the TC Electronics Flashback 2X4. I also made a video about that. You can go check that one out too if you want an in-depth look. But it has 6 banks, but I basically use 3 of the presets. 6 banks. It has 2 banks, but I basically use 1 bank, 3 presets mainly. The other ones are just kind of like experimental stuff if I want. So I have like an 1/8 delay. We'll just believe this is an 1/8 delay. Yeah. It's 1/8 delay. I think I'm using the digital mode for this. And then got a dotted 1/8 over here. Changing its settings. And then my dual delay over here, this is, I think it's 1/4 and dotted 1/8 if I remember right. yes, those are kind of my main delay presets, is those three. The other bank I have like a modulated dual delay and a slapback setting, but I don't really use those very much just because of the style of music that I'm playing. Reverbs, so I'm still using the Zoom MS-70 CDR for that, but I now have 3 presets that I scroll between in the A-B mode, because A-B mode can really mean A to Z mode, because you can have up to 26 presets that'll just scroll through every time you hit the foot switch. So I have 3. I have a small verb, a mid verb, and a big verb. So the small verb is what's been on this whole time you've been hearing it, so... It's, I think, just a small hall verb. It's probably a little more reverb than a lot of people would have always on, but frankly, I love reverb, and I like a little more of it than some people might. So that's the small verb. We'll go over here. I'm kind of reaching around because I'm sitting down. But we'll go to the mid verb. I like this one. Let's go. Go and put that dual delay on because it gets some really nice ambient sounds. That's my middle reverb setting. We have one more that's just massive, and sometimes I'll use this for the ambient stuff. Yes, that decay lasts forever. I have it set that way on purpose. So for the ambient stuff, when I'm doing like quiet parts or playing under prayers or whatever, it just I kind of feel it out if I'm going to use the mid verb or the big verb. That big verb is also really good for huge lead parts. It's a modulated reverb going into a hall reverb, just because I really like that sound. Hall reverb's kind of my go-to for most things. I'm not a huge plate verb guy, but I like it once in a while. But usually my bass line is a hall reverb, and then I got a little bit of a modulated reverb, since this is mostly either big lead moments or super ambient stuff, so it's not like super warbly, but there is a little bit in there, and I like that. But let's do some cool lead stuff like that. Yeah, that's massive, and honestly, that's that huge lead sound is kind of why I put the super fuzz after the other drives too, just because I think it's really cool to get that massive, dirty, thick sound. It just sounds huge, so I really like that, especially through those big reverbs and delays. So yeah, then we go into 2 ToneXs. You can see they're just zip tied on there right now, rather than using the mounts or dual lock or anything. That's because one of them's not mine, so I'm borrowing that from a friend and didn't want to rip the rubber backing off to put dual lock on there. So I've got those zip tied down. They're also not in their permanent spot. I don't have a DI on the board yet, but I'm going to either get a DI mod or get an actual DI and just mount it underneath. And then they can either get mounted under along with that, because the ToneXs are set it and forget it pedals for me. So they either get mounted under depending on what space I need, or they'll just be directly next to each other because I won't need to access the outputs. But like I said at the beginning, I'm running on the left channel a 67 Pro Reverb, which I am loving that amp recently. And then on the right channel, it is a hand-wired AC-15. And then underneath the board, I'm not going to flip it over and show you all that, but it's two Gator power supplies. So I have a Gator Power-8 and Power-5 powering everything on the board, and having no problems. They don't have a lot of super high amperage outputs on them, so to run the flashback, I am jumping together using not a voltage doubler, a current doubler, so that I have enough, because the flashback actually needs about 300 milliamps to do what it does. So I'm using two outputs for that. Everything else is pretty much fine on one. So yeah, that's kind of what's powering everything on the board there. Though power supplies are going to have to be an upgrade before I can really get more stuff, because I'm running out of room, and if I get anything besides like more drives, I can't really power it. And then the board itself, you can see I've upgraded from my homemade board that I had before. I still really liked that board, and if I didn't need more space, I would have just kept using it. But basically my options were buy pedals and have nowhere to put them, or buy a new board and have a little bit of empty space. So you can see there is kind of one or two pedals worth of empty space in the middle near that reverb pedal, just because I don't have anything to put there right now. But I intentionally bought a board bigger than I needed so that as I buy more pedals, I can put more stuff on there. And you know, with that, I can also do things like put the ToneXs underneath if I need even more space, things like that. And then, you know, eventually my plan is to get like the Fender switchboard, MIDI controller, and then some things just won't need to be super accessible because I'll be able to control them from that. So then it won't really matter how close they are to each other or exactly how they're laid out, because it'll all be controlled through there. But that's down the line. That's an expensive pedal. So right now there's just that empty space. Let me know what you think I should put there in the comments below. I know what the answer is, and it's a modulation pedal, because I don't have any modulation on this board. Anytime I need a vibrato, I borrow a pedal. And I love chorus, so it's weird to not have that on here. I could put it on the ToneXs. I honestly just haven't gotten to it. I really should. Just what I used to do is make clone presets of my amps on the ToneX, so that when I switch to the B preset on there, it would just be exactly the same but with chorus on it. So I might still do that, but since I'm running them at the end of the chain, I feel like that'd be a little weird now, because I used to run my What Effects after my amps, which that's another big thing that changed, is I started running the amps at the very end of the chain, and I really, really like it. I spent over a year running my amps into my Wet Effects, and was like, you know, I want to try something different. So when I borrowed this other ToneX from my friend, I moved them to the end, and I really like it. I'm really liking the sound. I love the big washy sound that I get from slamming all the amps with Wet Effects. I think it's really cool. And then this board is a Temple Audio Trio 21. So it's 21 inches wide, and then it has it's deep enough for 3 rows of pedals. That's what the Trio is supposed to stand for. And I've been really happy with this board. My only like minor complaint about it is since I'm trying out my volume pedal being in the middle of the board instead of on the edge, and there is a little bit of flex there. But I have enough stuff on here, and like my power supplies are underneath of it, and between those things it kind of stops it for me, so it's not too big of a deal. They do make brackets to help solve that problem, so that's not really like a huge deal, but that's kind of my only complaint with it, because I do really like the way these are all laid out. All of the cable management, you know, runs and holes and everything that are on the top of it, I really like, and I think their mounting system is cool. I'm not switching to it completely, at least not yet, because I tend to buy and sell pedals a lot, and it's easier to take off some dual lock than it is to get those Temple pedal mounts off of there, though I am using those for my power supplies underneath just to make sure those are super secure, because on my old board I had a problem with them falling off when they were just dual locked. So those are, you can see this screw here, and there's another one over by the Super Fuzz, yeah, right next to the Super Fuzz, under the patch cable there, and those are just the Temple pedal mounts flipped upside down to hold my power supplies underneath, to make sure that they are nice and secure, just because I don't have that center bracket to hold them underneath. Goodness, my voice just cracked weird. But yeah, you know, now we'll just play a little bit, and you can just kind of hear how I use a lot of this stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. You've pretty much seen everything that I'm using now, but this is my regular setup for the moment until I, you know, inevitably get more stuff or get rid of stuff or whatever, because I'm a guitar player and my setup changes all the time. But it really changed enough that I felt the need to make another video on it, just so when I'm making future videos, you kind of have an idea of the setup and what else you're hearing in those videos. So thanks a lot for coming back to the channel. I would love it if you subscribed and left a comment down below. Tell me what you think and what you think maybe should go in that empty spot there, or whatever else you want to tell me. But yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.